Hello and welcome to GG Weekend Watch, kindly sponsored by BetMGM, with myself, Dave Young, and Andrew Mount, to look forward to a cracking weekend of action at Cheltenham and Doncaster. And I feel it's all we deserve after the spate of abandonments that we've had to endure in recent weeks. We deserve this weekend's racing. Trials Day, of course, at Cheltenham, the rescheduled Clarence House, and Doncaster itself has some cracking contests to go at. So we had better get stuck in. But just before that, of course, last week, we had nothing really to go. We only got the weather going ahead. So Dave didn't even have a runner, but Andrew still managed to find a 40-1 shot that finished fourth. All firms paying for places, of course, a Darwell Lion and oh so grand, my nap one as well. So fortunately, we did manage to find you a little something. Hopefully then more this weekend, because we have plenty to go at. Right, now we begin with a Premier handicap chase at Cheltenham. 4 5-year-olds and over 2 mile, 4.5 furlongs at 115. I just love these 2.5 mile Premier handicap chases. We get it all of the Cheltenham meetings. We have another good one here. So Dave, would you like to kick us off?
I would love to. It's interesting to say with this meet as well, there's so many races, isn't there? Because obviously it's been rearranged. The weather's been doing us a favour. We've said let's have less fixtures, let's have less racing. Look at the quality fields we're seeing this weekend. It's insane. And even with this Premier Handicap, the race before the Novices version over the same trip, there are clues aplenty to be found. You're going to notice a theme this week, guys, as well, with every single one of my selections. I'm just getting lured in by prices on lots of stuff. So the one that's lured me in here, right, there's plenty that have got chances. There's horses at different ends of the scale. There's horses that have been improving this season up in the weights. There are horses that haven't really shown much this season down in the weights. It's one of those that I'm taking a swing at, and I'm taking a swing at Hitman. Had a wind up since he's run at Aintree, where I couldn't even really say it was a run. Never really travelling. Was sent off 72 favourite that day. But he's now down another couple of pounds in the handicap, down to 156. Got Freddie Gingle taking £5 off, so effectively 151. I know people will say that the claimers sometimes aren't necessarily worth the weight, but Freddie, we know, definitely is. This horse was third in a Ryanair chase behind Envoy Elan and Shishkin. I know Shishkin wasn't at his best that day, but still, that form suggests that this horse is more than capable of running better numbers than 151, which effectively be running off. I think it's also keen to say, right, he's only ever run at Cheltenham once. That was his first spin round the track, so any horse will benefit for a look round. I know Harry Cobden's riding Ridoto, but I do think it is the extra few pounds that come off. There are question marks around him, given the fact that obviously he did flop first time up. Had his win tinkered with, as Paul Nicholls likes to do with his horses. I just think he's way too big a price. It would only be a small investment in him, but there will be clues to be found. We've got the spring festivals around the corner, right? Like I say, his mark is coming down. If he's a bit of an eye catcher, he could be one for a handicap at the festival. But I like Hitman. I'm hoping he goes and runs very well here and then tries his luck again in the Ryanair. So Hitman, about 15-2, I think he is at the time of recording.
Yeah, and in each way plus race, of course, with BetMGM, also 1, 2, 3, 4 places on offer here. And Hitman, I mean, he's very much lived up to his name for punters in recent seasons. But David willing to go in again, then here, hoping the wind operation, it does the trick for him. Andrew.
Yeah, Hitman should be renamed Fruitcake. He's a complete nut job, isn't he? But I can see the each way angle, although I'm not a big fan of Freddie G, given how he keeps going around the inside at Taunton and Wincanton where the mud's flying. I don't think he's value for his £5 claim as some people suggest. Pretty old race this one, isn't it? Because you look at the top of the market, Il Ridoto, 1 win from his last 11 starts, 4-1. Excello priced up on reputation, perhaps, rather than what he's achieved on the track, 6-1. Victorino coming. That's not sure to suit. Hitman, Fruitcake. I mean, easy as that. I know our esteemed colleague Matty Sutcliffe, has tipped him in his column this week. But you look at that race he won the last time he won. It was a 0 to 150. I think the top rated was 135, and he won that by 10 lengths. The 3 who followed him home are all rated like 121, 122, 124. It was an absolutely terrible race, for the supposed grade. I mean, Grandeur Dam is 11-1, trained by Alan King, running on a Saturday. I mean, for goodness sake, Cheltenham handicaps, Alan King full stop is about 3 from the last 79. Jetois not completely out of it, although after he won at Aintree, the old Rowan Chase with about 3 fences, he was due to go in I think the Peterborough Chase or the December Gold Cup. He'd missed those targets, so perhaps something's been amiss with him. You kind of go through it and you're like, and you go down the field expecting to find one you can half fancy at a big price. There's nothing. It's a terrible race. I could half go with Frere Darmez for down Skelton. First time cheap pieces. Skelton runners who finished 5th or worse last time out the frame got a great record on first time cheap pieces. Although they do keep running him right-handed, you wonder if he's effective this way around. So I came back to the favourite, Il Ridoto. I mean, you look at the roll of honour of this race in recent years. You've got to be on the front end. I mean, I think the last 5 or 6 winners have made all or never been out the first 2. You have to go back to wishful thinking to the Hobbs Yard horse. I'm sure you know plenty about Kay. Good old boy who won this off, I think, a mark of 156 and was still rated higher afterwards back in 2014 to find a horse who came from off the pace to win. So we know what they're going to do with the Ridoto. 4-1, nothing great, but you back him each way. I think there's very little downside. So reluctantly, I'll tip the favourite.
You're in a ruthless mood though this morning or this afternoon. I can tell already. Just dismissive the whole way through there. Back to Il Ridoto though. Harry Cobson, of course, taking the ride this time around. I mean, he was my nap last time, so I'll be cursing him if he goes and wins this 4-1 though. I am going to side with an Alan King horse on a Saturday. It is the aforementioned Grandeur. Yep. I was waiting for it. So I was mentally prepared for the knockbacks that Andrew was going to serve me then for this.
It's not day run to car crash. They haven't supplemented another at the last minute.
Exactly. Thank goodness. No, I can quite proudly say I don't think I actually ever tipped up day run to car, Jack. Happy retirement all the same. But yeah, Grandeur Dame though for me. Second choice, he was behind Il Ridoto for me last time out in the December Gold Cup. So you can see I had a very frustrating, if not a positive result out of that with a 2nd and a 4th, but I think this race will work out even better for Grandeur Dame, who tried to go forwards last time out, but which I was obviously pleased about because that race tended to go to prominent races and so nearly did again. But Il Ridoto, and as soon as Ferrero Bamboo came to him, they went hammer and tongs up front. I was pleased that Tom Bellamy and Grandeur Dame just sat back then. For all it meant that he was sort of just in that tricky middle ground of the pace thereafter. That probably meant he gave his running, but nothing more. But now he's running off the £3 lower, back over this course and distance, all conditions to suit. And I just feel that he's been a bit forgotten about in the market at 11-1. So Grandeur Dame for me, we're divided opinion in our first race. Right. Cotswold Chase time now, though. The grade 2 contest of 5 rods and over 3 mile 1 at 150, of course, at Cheltenham again. Royal Pagaille, Stay Away Faye, vying for favouritism. But Andrew, who comes out on top?
This is fascinating. It's one of those races where you think, well, none of them have really got the conditions they need, perhaps. I mean, Royal Pagaille is absolutely fantastic at Haydock. He's like, Bristol to my version 2.0. Wonderful horse. He needs the mud ideally. Good to soft in places. Drying wind over the next couple of days could be good to soft or even quicker come post time. He's not a Cheltenham horse. I mean, Bristol to my, of course, placed in the Gold Cup despite not being a Cheltenham horse. But much as I love him, I think Royal Piggy will get beat today. 130 is a terrible price. Stay Away Faye, couldn't fault him. Albert Bartlett winner. They got chinned at Aintree. Perhaps that came a bit too soon. Done well since switched defensive, beating Great Dawning, of course, among others on his chase debut at Exeter. Followed that up. And he's going to go from the front. And again, this is it's the new course at Cheltenham. It's another race where it pays to be prominent. The real whacker, I could see the case of that. Hoy Senor, even, I mean, we know he's an absolute fruitcake and he jumps out to his right, but he does tend to come good in the second half of the season. He does tend to come good once he's had 2 runs, not beyond the realms of possibility that he could, bounce back. But what I didn't like as Capitano is his jumping is not great, and he does like to be ridden patiently, so I think he's going to struggle. So I'll go Stay Away Faye for the Nichols Yard in the hope that he can get into a good rhythm on the front end. I'm not worried about his novice status against some horses that are just not running in their ideal conditions. But it's a fascinating race. 130 in the field, biggest price 8-1. You sort of like think, maybe anything could happen, but I've got to side with one, so I'll go Stay Away Faye.
A novice then taking on these open company horses, but he is 2 from 2 over fences. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see that, Dave, isn't it? With the novices taking on these experienced rivals, and the second season novices in there, of course, as well. But how did you play it?
Oh, well, it's difficult with Andrew's mood this week, isn't it? He's very, very straight in with it, which is good. I feel like we're going to butt heads for the sake of butting heads, but not for the sake of that, right? So this is one of the best betting heats of the the weekend, I think, purely for the fact of the market could go in any way, shape or form. I think there's bits of cases to be made for a few of them, and there are pros and cons. There will be lots of people on one side of the fence or the other with these horses, as opposed to sitting on the fence with them. The one thing I will say about Royal Pagaille, which I think is a bit harsh from Andrew, was just that he was disputing third in that second Gold Cup that he ran in. The first one he finished lame, and then the other one he bumped into Gallop and the shot miles behind. But those runs have always come in March. Royal Pagaille's best form is sort of this time of year, like up into a January. When he's won those races at Haydock, they have been coming in January. Even when he won in France.
That's ground related, do you think? As he's more likely to get in soft or heavy conditions in January rather than March?
No, I just think that's when they train him to win his races, because they know that they're less competitive. And this obviously isn't, I know as much as there's some good.
Or is that because when there's Haydock races? There's
yeah,
no Haydock races in March.
but it's not, these aren't just like, it just isn't as good. I don't necessarily fully buy into the ground stuff, but for all that I'm saying, I'm only defending him a little bit just because I think he does have a favourite chance. He's £16 higher rated than Stay Away Faye, and yes, I do get it, that rating's probably more achieved at Haydock than it is here, but Stay Away Faye's rating is dubious to say the least. The first run at Exeter, the Changer Man that came second, that was closest, Grey Dawning clearly didn't show his running that day for whatever reason, had him 50 lengths behind the Changer Man when he's shown his proper run in. And then even beating Giovinco, that horse pulled up in the Feltham. So I'm still very much dubious about Stay Away Faye. Why wouldn't Paul Nicholls run him in the Counter-Star Novices Chase if he thought he was a future Gold Cup horse? Like
because he had the favourite in the race, Hermes Allen.
No, we had Nappers Hill was his first choice, and Hermes Allen was the second recruit, wasn't he? I just don't like this whole plot thing. There's been money for him for the National Hunt Chase as well. I'm just worried that Stay Away Faye isn't quite as good as what he's shown. And even if he is right, he's 150 rated. The real whacker's 162. Already won a Brown Advisories at Cheltenham. I just think that Stay Away Faye's a bit of a bad price.
Do you think you can put one figure on one horse across all tracks and all going? I mean, Bristol de May at Haydock, what would you rate him? And what would you rate him at Cheltenham? It'd be like having a split mark for a flat horse on the all-weather and on the turf. He'd be like 180 at Haydock. He'd be 158 or something like that, or even less at Cheltenham. And it might be the same with Royal Piggy. I mean, love him, but my God, if this was at Haydock, he'd be odds on. You'd be thinking that might be value. But at Cheltenham, you've got to put a big question mark against that.
Okay, so but within that, the real whacker won a Brown Advisory. Like Stay Away Faye hasn't yet won a Grade 1 chase, yet is joint favourite for the.
He's only had 2 runs in over fences.
Oh no, I do get that. All I'm saying is, right, this is a race where the market's going to be moved about so much. I think like Royal Pagaille, people will be against him, but for the facts of his rating and things like that, you can see why he's towards the front of the market. You can see on potential why Stay Away Faye's the price that he is. Definitely looks like a proper horse. But I mentioned the real whacker already. He's in there. There's no way Sam Twiston Davis gives Harry Cobden an easy lead on Stay Away Faye. This is going to be a very tactically interesting race. Ahoy Senior, unfortunately, just seems gone at the game. But obviously, last year won this race with some sort of resurgence. He hasn't shown anything like that this season. He's actually been jumping okay, just been putting up because he doesn't seem to be seeing it. Capodano gets weight off of everything in here on his best form, especially at this sort of trip. Actually could get himself in the mix. So it is a wide open affair. As much as I said people to be sitting on one side of the fence and not sitting on the fence, I will not be having a bet in this race.
So we just stick them all in the place pot and hope for the best. I mean,
I wouldn't be far off that.
I mean, you look at this race last year. You had Ahoy Senior 13-2 beat Sounds Russian 8-1 in a field of 6. With like Protector up beaten, Noble Yates beaten. It's short odds. So it's often been a funny old race, this one, hasn't it? When you look at like the Roll of Honor, the Giant Bolster winning it, for example.
Yeah, it's definitely one of them. It is a really fascinating race, and I do think there's lots of cases to be made for plenty of them. I'm anti Stay Away Faye only at the moment because I think on known form that we've seen, Stay Away Faye hasn't shown enough form to win this race. But I would love to see him going absolutely bolt up, because we do get this in the Cotswold Chase where we've had some strange results in the past. It would be nice just to see a very good horse that doesn't have question marks around it go and do the job here, and then you talk about a potential future Gold Cup horse, because he's the only one in this field that you would be talking about in that vein as far as I'm concerned. But he's obviously priced on that potential as opposed to what he's done. So yeah, it's a long-winded way of saying I'm not having a bet in the race. But I just wanted to discuss.
I think we should have a separate podcast about this race because we could talk about it all day. It is fascinating.
I've just sat back and enjoyed it. I've just sat back, and this has been hilarious. I always forgot I was hosting this thing then, because I was just watching both of your reactions when the other one was talking, and it's hilarious. Andrew's there just stirring his cauldron in the background. Dave's outraged. Andrew just came up with a bubble thumbs up there in the background. It's all going on. But
this can be our pound, because we like to have a little roll up. We'll have a match race then.
And just to remind us of the score so far.
2-0 to Andrew, because the abandonment meant you won again.
Yeah. But that was evil of me, because I was about 10 on to win that one. So it was
good. We'll roll it into Royal Piggy versus Stay Away Fair in a match.
Okay then, right, this is where the pound challenge is now going between these two, so can't wait to see how this, and we basically nailed Dave to a selection then on that basis, sort of, for the Cotswold Chase. A fascinating race. Now more grade 2 action, because it's time for the mares. This is the grade 2 Yorkshire Rose Mares Hurdle for 4-year-olds and over 2.5 miles, a furlong at 2:05 at Doncaster. Ashrow Diamond, your 13-8 favourite, but Dave, who are you siding with?
I'm right. I'll just spoiler alert it already. I'm not having a bet in this race. I won't talk too long, because I know it'll annoy the viewers out there. I've got some good ones I like. I will just mention that Willie took this race in 14 and 17 with Annie Power, Ruband Mag. They both came second at Cheltenham. Now, Annie Power didn't go in the Mares Hurdle because Quevega was taking her last victory in that. She did come a good second in a Stayers Hurdle, or a World Hurdle as it was back then. But this year, I think we could have a bit of a different story, right? I know we've got Lossie Mouth for the International. She might be the main protagonist, but Ashrow Diamond has loads of her fans. Gala Marceau has lots of her fans. And I feel like people are either in one camp or the other. I don't know which side of the fence with those two that I would particularly sit on. I do like Gala Marceau, though. I do think with her juvenile form, running behind Lossie Mouth, she is very keen, isn't she? But she did manage to get the better of Lossie Mouth, all for the fact that Paul Townend got a terrible telling off for his ride on Lossie. There is no Lossie Mouth in it. Gala Marceau does have to give a few pounds to Ashrow Diamond, but I do think she is better. But they're both relatively short in the market. You wouldn't be sure which way around it would go. Under Control's mark of 137, the way that this horse was supported at Newbury and how terribly it ran, I'd be terrified if they actually won this race instead of saving her for a county hurdle. That would be the ideal. And I also look at the race and think Ashrow Diamond's 143. She'd still get in a Martin Pipe. So on that said, Gala Marceau to win this in a treble with Under Control for the county hurdle and Ashrow Diamond for the Martin Pipe. But I'll sit back and watch. I'll hope for future festival clues rather than having a bet. But it's a real good race to watch.
What a way to throw this race forwards. That's it. We're talking the present and the future then for Dave for this race and these mares. Andrew, how are you playing it? Anything like that?
Yeah, no, I've no strong opinion. I'm fascinated by what Dave said. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I want to be against Danny Mullins ridden, Willie Mullins trained horses, particularly in Britain. I mean, Under Control is fascinating, but yes, Henderson's do seem to have gone off the boil recently. I mean, he's we're recording this on Thursday, 25th of January. He's a couple of run like hairy dogs who, one who pulled up at Huntingdon was 64 favourite and water. So you just wonder if they're sort of perhaps just suffering the effects of the flu jab. And, I mean, normally the Henderson downturn occurs in February as all the best ones are held back for Cheltenham. But I'd just put a little bit of a question mark over some of them at the moment. So yeah, I'll just watch it with interest. I'll be cheering for Stainsby Girl without having a bet on. Probably needs softer going. But she's a great old mare who's won about a third of her starts and fairly lightly raced for a 10-year-old and could go well from the front. And I could say goodbye. First run for Nigel Twiston-Davies is a fascinating runner as well. But for me, it was a race to watch and enjoy, not to betting.
No, not then to betting. Yeah, say goodbye. I didn't realise to say goodbye. Had left Gordon Elliott's then, and now with Nigel Twiston-Davies, 12 to 1 of their scenes. We got 25 to 1 for the 10-year-old mare. Right now, the rescheduled Grade 1 Clarence House Chaser. Of course, we don't get the matchup between El Fabiolo and John Bon, but we do at least get John Bon, who is a hot prospect in here. James Bowen, of course, taking the road because Nico de Boinville has been stood down again after his comeback. But Andrew, what was the betting angle at least in this one?
Oh crikey! I've come at this from about 18 different angles. I've spent far too long on this race. My first thought is to oppose John Bon because of the question mark of the form of Nicky Henderson's, despite him obviously being the best horse in the race according to official ratings. Editor De Geet won this race last year, making all. He might get taken on by Elixir du Nuts, but he did at Kempton last time out. Still saw that one off. And then Nube Negra came and split the pair, so the three of them are running again. If the ground does dry out, Nube Negra is not without a chance. He's got a good, he likes the new course. Probably needs a bit longer between his races in the 31 days he's had, but on drying ground, on time-based good ground, he's 5 wins from 8 starts. Fugitif is absolutely fascinating. Second, first from 3 runs on the new course. If they go like the absolute clappers, which seems certainly possible, then you could see him staying on to good effect. And backing him each way, quarter the odds 1-2, 4-1 for second place is certainly not a bad idea. So. And Elixir de Nuts, I know he was beaten last time behind Editor De Geet. My God, he's got a good record for his current yard at this time of year. 3 from 3 from January and a first and a second in February since joining the Tizzards from Philip Hobbs. So I can make cases for sort of almost anything to happen here. But give me £2. I'll put a £1 each way on Fugitif. Hope they go too fast up front. He comes through and finishes probably second to John Bond, but maybe, who knows, might just cause an upset.
6-1 at a track that definitely suits him. Fugitif, Dave, betting angle.
Well, I don't know. I did just quickly skip on my phone to see that Fish Cake's just won. Go on, the Monkfish. He's back.
Oh, fish face.
Yeah, so we'll put that one up there. Yeah, I'm pleased that this race has been rearranged. I know I wanted to see the matchup right. It would have been nice. Touched on the video last week. It will take a long time until it's proven whether it's just myth made up or truth by me. But John Bond started to jump left. I don't think he would have benefited at all from running at Ascot, other than the fact that he would have jumped a little bit left, got beaten by El Fabio, and they would have tried again at Cheltenham. I know it's a different course. This is more experience for John Bond at Cheltenham, though. Henderson's been saying about how buzzy he is. I just think it's very good for him and the potential for the champion chase. So I'm all for it. I don't see how he gets beat, to be honest with you. That slower chase run was real good. So I just think he wins. The one I would say, though, is Nube Negra, right? John Joe O'Neill Jr. rode him at Sandown in the Tingle Creek. Really bad ground that day. Harry Skelton said he's never been round Cheltenham so fast in that slower chase. He's just such a massively big price for a horse that, yes, hasn't really been shown his best form. And yes, I know he was beaten by Editor De Geet, but on his day, with the right conditions, he is still a bit of an aeroplane, I think. So I would be looking to play him in the forecast with John Bond. I'm also curious about the fact that if his mark keeps dropping down, because the last time John Joe rode him, they got a couple of pounds off. Nube Negra for the Grand Annual, get that in the lucky 15.
I'm doing a Cheltenham preview with Tom Messenger, assistant to Dan Sco, and I'll try and get the lowdown on what the Grand Annual plans are. Because I mentioned Unexpected Party last week as a potential Grand Annual, but they're 0 from 11 in that race, but I know they're sort of keen to win it. The 2 mile chase, handicap chase, a bit like the 2 mile county hurdle, the handicap hurdle they do so well in. So I'm sure it won't be long before Dan Skelton has a Grand Annual win it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Exactly. And with you touching on Unexpected Party as well, someone like a Nube Negra in there, right at the top of it, being able to potentially be a pace angle in for him. You'd think if you're going to try and win the race, they might stick a couple in there. But I think for the purpose of this, right, I thought he was too big a price in the slower. Didn't turn out because obviously John Bond went real quick. There's no reason to suggest John Bond won't go as quick this time, but it's James Bowen on board, isn't it? So maybe he'll be a little bit more careful with him if he is going up to the left and such. So I think Nube Negra is just grossly overpriced. That's the theme of this week. So he's going in the forecast.
In the forecast, there's a 16 to 1.
I think what I do as well, I do a combination exacta and trifecta. Elixir du Nuts, Editor De Geet, and Nube Negra. Just the 1, 2, 3 at Kempton last time. Just in the the hope that the Hendersons are out of form. John Bond runs a shocker, and Fugitif gets completely outpost.
Oh, okay. There's definitely different ways to play the Clarence House Chase. I did ask for betting angles. Didn't know I was going to get this much, but I'm really pleased that I have done all the same, because definitely plenty of intrigue about that contest. Right, a proper war of attrition contest up now. This is the Grade 2 Albert Bartlett Riverdon Novices Hurdle for 5 rounds and over 3 miles at 240, back up at Doncaster. A race that always takes some amount of getting. So, Dave, who stays it best of all?
Well, yeah, it's a proper decent renewal of this race. I love this race. Remember when the Cobb won it a good few years back, and it was like pretty testing conditions that day. This year, though, the ground looks like it's going to be a little bit better. It might be the easiest River Don to get in recent years, which will help both of the front two in the market. Welcome to Cartree, stepping up to 3 miles for the first time. Looks like an absolute boat, doesn't he? And I think if he was a yacht, he'd be a pretty good yacht, to be fair. But we'll see what he does, obviously, in here. I wouldn't want to be paying at 3-1 to find out just what level of class he is. Destroy the evidence for Kim Bailey. I still think there's a tiny cloud around about their form, and I know he ran well behind Shanna Bob, and there's a line that goes through a horse I'm going to mention in a minute through another one that ran in there. But I think they're about right for their marks, and I would hope that there is something a bit better in here. When I started to look for the one that would be better, I mean, I already looked at this when it was entered in the week. I'm just pleased it's running. It is Dripsey Moon for John McConnell that won this race a couple of years ago with Marla Mission. This horse, right? This horse is probably not in the same class as a Marla Mission as it stands, but coming into the race, Marla Mission was more potential than anything else, right? This horse as well, just to quickly loosely touch on something else. We touched on Marla Mission for John McConnell, which sounds good. I love a romantic story with this. Let the Lion Roar is the sire for Dripsey Moon. Now, that wouldn't be the most common of sires. The Cobb that I mentioned, it's the Cobb's dad. He's bred for this race. John McConnell loves a plot, don't he? He's had Ben Harvey on a couple of times. They ran him on Boxing Day in Limerick, or St Stephen's Day because it's an island, and it was a bog that day. He was out the back, but that was in a grade 2 behind that Laughlin for Willie Mullins, who looks like a potential Albert Bartlett type horse. Only 12 lengths behind in hindsight, but was really bad ground that day. I think the horse wants better ground. He's officially rated 129, maybe dubious on lines of form. So the horse I was talking about that goes through Destroy the Evidence is Cadell, that ran behind Shanna Bob as well. But I just don't think Cadell really liked it that day. I'm going to put a line through that because obviously I'm selecting the horse. I just think that the price is right for a horse that I would say definitely been targeted for this race. He's way too big a price. He's currently a price at 14-1. There are some firms offering 4 places up for grabs, and we know what John McConnell can be like as a target trainer. He loves coming over to Britain to pick up these easier grade 2s. Welcome to Cartrees could be subject to Nichols' flu jab, and they're picking up this race on the way to Cheltenham. We know that obviously last year Stay Away Faye came second in the race. So if you are beaten in this, lots of good horses have been beaten in this. Doesn't mean you're a bad horse. And then Destroy the Evidence for Kim Bay, like I said, there's a bit of a cloud around that one. So I think this horse is as good as either of those two, but is 14-1 when those two are 3 and 4-1. So I'm going to have a relatively juicy each way bet on Dripsey Moon and trust that John McConnell has made this race the plan. The good ground is going to come to his favour, and I think he's got enough form in the book to suggest he should be at least half the price, if not a quarter of it.
14-1. It was so weird. As soon as you said that, I was clicking into him and saw Let the Lion Roar as his sire. I was like, who is that as the sire? So you've literally answered the question as soon as it came into my mind. 14-1 about John McConnell's runner for Dave. Andrew.
Yeah, funny old race when we have some odd results as well. We have to go back to 2016 and Barters Hill for the last favourite, trained by Ben Paul, as was the Cobb 25-1 3 years ago. Dave making that sound like his ancient history. that's young people for you. But there was a couple that I like. One is Range for Sam Thomas, who's ran second to Gidley Park, of course, at Exeter in a race that worked out incredibly well. And he duly landed some good bets at Chepstow next time out. Maybe he needs softer ground, so this won't be the race for him. And the other one of interest is Big Fish. Now, I did notice prior to Big Fish's racecourse debut that her dam Tweedledrum is a good influence for horses who run well when fresh. I think she's had 4 horses make the track, and 3 of them won at the first time of asking. Manila Destination, another one, won again after a break of 51 days. And the Big Fish was a winner first time out this season. Now, she was bombed out next time out, but that probably came too soon, less than a month after that run. That was at Warwick. So she's had 66 days off the track. So he's had 66 days off the track. He's a 20-1 shot, trained by Emma Lavelle. So I'll just go sort of small each way stakes on Big Fish in the hope that Fresh Angle comes to the fore again for her down.
20 Sam, 20-1 is the price about Big fish. Right, back to Cheltenham for the Grade 2 International Hurdle, which of course has been rescheduled from the international meeting, if we can still call it that, in December, and it now sits on Trials Day instead. Of course, it's for 4-year-olds and over 2 mile one at 3 o'clock. But Andrew, who are you siding with?
Yeah, this is a funny old one because I've got a system saved in my Proform database, which is to back 5-year-olds in the international hurdle. But of course, that's kind of like been blown out the water because they've shoved it back a month. So those 5-year-olds, perhaps 6-year-olds now. And if you're following that angle, the only one you've got here is Rubard and Custard for Paul Nicholls. Also, Rubard. Now. Willie Mullins has got Losty Mouth trading odds on, who I think he's had 3 runners in this race in recent years. They've all got chinned, but they've all been placed. Now, I mean, God Your Dreams is fascinating. He's coming back from a 660-day break. He won this as a 5-year-old. I think in 2021, the last time this race was run, because we lost it last season because of the bad weather. And I think he placed in there the following year, although well beaten behind Stormy Island, third at 5-2. But I'm looking at Rubard, and since they went front running with him, he's improved. I mean, he used to race keenly and sit just behind the pace and sort of not always get home. They put a hood on for the first time, and he won well from the front at Kempton in Grade 2 company. Then won his next 3, and he's only once since they've adopted front running tactics has he been beaten. And finishing second to Constitution Hill isn't being beaten, is it? It's basically winning a race. So when you look at that, he had first 3 behind him in third. So I was going to go Rubard again. The hope that he can upset the odds on and just go well from the front here for Paul Nicholls and give. I'm assuming now it's going to be 6-year-olds in the international hurdle, not 5-year-olds now that it's run in January.
Yeah, now that we've had to rearrange the trends, therefore, because it has been pushed back a month now, sits on Trials Day, as said before. But Rubard 5-1 in here, taking on the mares at the head of the market. Dave, you taking on the mares as well?
No, kind of, maybe, possibly. I think she's definitely the right favourite. I also think, as much as she's favourite for the mares hurdle, I'm not desperate to see her stepped up in trip. I think this is probably her ideal trip until I'm proven otherwise. Love Envoy's just taken this on route to the mares hurdle, and I know Losty Mouth is as well, but Love Envoy's definitely got like a bit left to work on, I think it sounds like, from connection. So Losty Mouth should just be too good to win this, but it's the same as I was talking about with Stay Away Fair as well. It's the should. We're doing it on more promise than what we've actually seen in the book, but what she has done on the race course is pretty good. She deserves to be the price that she is. I just wouldn't be taking like an even money poke to bet her. I'm sure there'll be plenty of people that would be interested. Rubard's really interested. That's definitely not how you say it, but I'm not going to say it again. 149 is rated,
better
right?
than Rubard and Custard.
Well, that's easier, isn't it? But he's rated 149. So in the conditions of this race, he's like coming up very unfavourably. Paul Nicholls said on a blog recently that he was going to see what the entries were to see if he was going to run in, wanted to see what the ground was like, things like that as well. So he's a little bit maybe looking for a softy option. I don't think he's going to get that here. There is a bit of prize money up for grabs, isn't there? But I don't know if it's worth it. I feel like he's a good enough horse to run to that mark of 149, but I don't think he can run beyond it. So on these terms, I'm struggling with a little bit. I feel like, again, it could be a little like an eye-opener. I know Nicholls doesn't necessarily target Cheltenham so much, but he screams out county hurdle type horse of 149 as well. So watch him with interest. I wouldn't bet him. If he goes and wins this, then fair play. They'll spin him in the champion hurdle, wouldn't they? The one I can make a tiny, weeny bit of a case for, and it doesn't need much of a case when they're this big a price. God Your Dreams already won this race, didn't he? Beat Song for Someone. I know he's got a 660-day layoff to come over, and it's a different type of layoff when a horse has been injured or off the track for that significant amount of time. But 2 times, 195 days, 205-day break, won both of those. So Nigel Twisted-Davies could probably ready him fresh. This may have been something that's been thought about in the back of their minds, thinking it might be, I don't know, like if Constitution Hill came here, it would have been a different type of beast. But maybe this was a race to go into. Since they've seen that Constitution Hill's not running, maybe they've given it a bit of extra work. I just think at 33-1, and on the way that the weights come out, I think he's probably overpriced. And I suspect he might be one of those runners where, especially going around Cheltenham, if a couple of people start to bet him and a little bit of money comes in, he could shorten up. So it'll be another one of the forecasts. We'll have John Bond to beat Nube Negra in a forecast double with Losty Mouth to beat Guard Your Dreams.
Oh, okay. Again, interesting ways to play that for sure. But guard your dreams, good case made 660 daily after have to defy 33 to 1 shot for a former winner of the race. Right now, we have a top-notch handicap up now in the form of what it's now known as the Great Yorkshire Handicap Chase, a premier handicap for 5 rows and over 3 miles at 3:15. Now we have 7 to 1 joint favourites at the head of the market here. So Dave, who wins it?
I think it is going to come from towards the head of the market. It makes me a little bit sad because we talked, didn't we, with Royal Pagaille about the peanut butter and jam, and then Mr. Coffee's in here. I can't really do any food related things in this one, but I can. I'm pretty sure I can give you the winner though. It's another one of these races where, like I said, John McConnell, I think, would have targeted the race. Sweet Will has been teed up for this from a long way out, right? And I touched on Mr. Coffee was supposed to run, Famous Bridge was supposed to run somewhere else. It's an afterthought for some of those horses. So as much as they've got their ability and they've got their chances, Sweet Will for me has been targeted for this. Won a handicap hurdle at this track. I think it was in March a couple of years ago, or maybe even last season, off of a bit of a higher mark. It was over hurdles, but over fences, right? The horse has now switched from Gavin Cromwell to Emmett Mullins, had a couple of spins over 2 miles, 5.5 furlongs in Ireland on soft ground, both times relatively well fancied. Now, the first of those runs just got run out at the end. Maybe like on another day, might have been able to do better and win the race, but just looked maybe to need the run and maybe need a little bit like better ground. Then the last run was really badly hampered, which just put paid to any chance. We didn't really see what he was like in a finish, but I think the horse wants 3 miles. The fact that the ground has dried up as well is massive. The 2 times that Gavin Cromwell sent this horse over to win handicap hurdles, it won at Cheltenham on good ground and it won here on good ground again. This is one of these plots, I think, where the ground has come exactly right for the horse. They would have plotted this from a long time out. If it came up soft, still would have run, but I think it would have tempered enthusiasm. Emmett would have left enough in the background to know that whatever the ground is, the horse would run its race. So I think optimum conditions, Sweet Will at 7 to 1 is going to go off a lot shorter than that. I reckon he's going to get smashed up. There's only so short you can go in a big handicap like this, but I think Sweet Will wins, and I think he wins quite comfortably.
Yeah, he's already shortened up from 10s there into 7s since declarations. And I mean, this is an each way plus race. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places on offer with BetMGM. Emmett Mullins, he did have a gambled horse overturned earlier on there at Goran as we record on Thursday afternoon. So whether or not the money, if it will come in, and then will it be landed for Sweet Will? Dave hopes so, and it's getting on now, Andrew.
Yeah, cracking race this. I think Famous Bridge, brilliant though he is vulnerable. His wins this season have come on soft and heavy going. He was non-runner in the Scottish National because of good ground. So I think if it continues to dry out, he's one to take on. Christian Williams is, I think, on something like 40 runners in 65 days since a winner. But we are coming to the time of year when his horses do tend to come good. See, there's been money for Captain Noor, 8 and 14s, and he's also got Strictly a Dancer, who of course won one of the amateur riders handicap chases at Cheltenham last season or the season before in October. He's a horse who's very much ground reliant and likes it good or quicker, so he could go well at a big price. But I've tipped Forward Plan in Racing Football Outlet this week. Anthony Honeyball's runner. He's got a great record on good ground. He's 3 from 7 over fences. I think he's only been out the first 3 once, and that was when very weak in the betting on his reappearance behind stablemate Blackjack Magic in the Badger Beers at Wincanton, a run that would have been needed. So yeah, Forward Plan, who of course beats our old friend Mr. Coffee, a perpetual runner-up over course and distance last time out. So who's to say they can't do the same thing again? So that I'm going to give you the not just the forecast, but the tricast. So Forward Plan wins. Mr. Coffee, finishes second. First time cheap pieces, that could help him get a little bit closer, but still finish second. And the other one, half interesting, is Whittle in the Dark, another first time cheap piece to runner for Laura Morgan, who had a pretty sort of slow start to the season, but recent signs, certainly with Jaffroy and a winner at Catterick on Wednesday, suggest that the odds coming to hand. So there's your first 3.
Nicely done. That is the way to play these types of races. Super competitive handicap, and Andrew's given us the first 3 in order as well. Whistling in the Dark, 22 to 1 shot though out of those. Now, dare I say it, I'm siding with Mr. Coffee here. Each way, just the caveat, 100%.
Yeah, five places. You can't go wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, 5 places. But as you just said, Andrew, he's getting the first time cheap pieces here. Finally. finally we all rejoice. The only time he's actually worn any sort of headgear in his career, he wore a hood, believe it or not, earlier on in his career. But now I feel that Nicky Henderson, he was almost taking a lot of blame himself for Mr. Coffee. He said, oh, it's trainer's fault why he hasn't got his head in front over fences. It's my placement. I think Nicky was doing himself a disservice. I feel that Mr. Coffee is the tricky piece of the puzzle, and that has been proven on a few occasions. But hopefully now Nicky Henderson has accepted the fact it's not him, and first time cheap pieces are being fitted here. Now, I mean, he's 10-1. He's not going to not be there in the finish, is he? But I don't think I'm chucking away the win pass off that each way bet rather than just having him as a place bet, because I don't think this is a vintage renewal of this race according to the ratings of these horses anyway. And he might just have this race fall into place for him finally. It's one of the class acts of the field. Returned to the same course and distance last time out, where he obviously wasn't favoured by the omitted fences. The 4 fences in the home straight were taken out. They only jumped 10 of the 18 there. But I thought he actually did show a good attitude all the same. And I'm getting a fair price about him. So Mr. Coffee. And the other one I did like at a bigger price was Strictly a Dancer as well at 25-1. So I'm pleased you gave him a nod. But Mr. Coffee, each way, the main play for me. Now, our final scheduled race in this section, it's the Grade 2 Cleeve Hurdle for 5 rods and over 3 miles at 3:35 back at Cheltenham. Old Warriors back out again here. Paisley Park, Dashel Drasher, Champ, Grand National Hero, even Noble Yates in here also. We have all sorts to go out. So Andrew, I mean, this is just great.
Yeah, this is another fascinating one. It sort of looks like pretty much the same field around the long walk hurdle as well, because mine is Cranbo. Paisley Park, Dashel Drasher will probably finish second to Paisley Park, I thought. Champ, I was against on age grounds and perhaps on the little doubt over the form of the Nicky Henderson runners. Botox Hall, again, it's a first-time advisor. He tends to run well in his first couple of runs each season, after which he goes off the boil. So although he's had 5 weeks off, I'm just worried that he might go backwards now. I looked at Strong Leader. They keep backing him this season, and he keeps disappointing. I looked at the stats with the sire passing glance and first-time cheap pieces, and with trainer Ollie Murphy. Nothing really positive that I could sort of, pin my sort of colours to. Flight Deck, I could see running okay at a price, but probably finishing 3rd or 4th. So I was just going to be very boring and go the favourite Paisley Park to beat the second favourite Dashel Drasher. Something they've sort of done previously, and you're probably going to get sort of 12-13-1 or something like that for your forecast pound.
The 12-year-old to beat the 11-year-old, and for those who to butt heads again, but Paisley Park 100-30 heading the way. And just a reminder again, despite having the 7 runners, BetMGM each way plus race 1, 2, 3 places on offer. Dave, which of the old boys took your eye?
I'm actually going for 2 horses that are single figure age, which is like less than half the field. It's a really nice race, isn't it? I remember in the past there's been some like really good renewals. There's been lots of horses where you want to see them go and win for going on for Cheltenham Festival. This is a very different type of race this year, isn't it? I won't bore you by going through all the horses because I've got bits and pieces I could say about all of them, and we're running out of time, I guess. Well, we're not, but we are. So the 2 that I want to bet, one's like, I feel like almost like a proper bet, but it is a punty one, so it wouldn't be stupid amounts of stakes, but it would just be, I think it's a solid bet. Andrew touched on Strong Leader, right? And Ollie Murphy's definitely reaching a bit here by stepping him up in trip, shoving the cheap pieces on. It's very much just like Andrew said, they've been supporting the horse. They know the horse has got a bit of ability. They just seem a little bit clueless what to do with him. Now, I said with this horse a long time ago, right? On the damn side, he's bred to be potentially like a Gold Cup horse. Not saying that he's that good, but he wants a trip. I think it was Paul Nicholls that had, let me just double check my notes. Was it, I want to say Strong Flow. Strong Flow it was, that won the Feltham, was sent off 5-1 in the Gold Cup that Kicking King won. I think this horse is bred for a trip. So I'm glad that he's doing it. And then if you take it in the context of what he's achieved at 2 miles, or even that run behind Bob Ollinger in the Real Kill, they're just going too quick for him when he's a horse that is maybe like a little bit of a boat. The cheap pieces, I'm not so sure that he actually needs those. I think he just needs to step up in trip, but why not? Belt and braces approach, right? Shove the cheap piece to help him concentrate. I think he's a bit too big of a price. He gets bits of weight from horses in here. It is a little bit like punchy to suspect that first time up in trip in this type of company, because as much as you can knock them for age and things like that, They are very, very good horses in here. He's a double figure price at the moment, 10-1. Like, I wouldn't be wanting to bet him if he gets any shorter than that. But if he's double figures, then I would say that he's worth a bit of a poke. Noble Yates as well, I'm going to have a very small amount on, purely for the fact, I know he's not a hurdler, but he's got Harry Cobden, and I love Harry Cobden, and he is just like a beast of a horse on his day. This will be more testing than the hurdle run that he had to come back. That was over 2 miles for. I know the ground's not going to be necessarily tested enough for him, but I don't think his problem normally over 3 miles when he's running better class will happen here. As much as they are good horses, I just don't think they're going to actually be able to go that fast that will get him outpaced and out of it. So I'll have a small little go on Noble Yates. I'll have a bit on Strong Leader, but they would be small investments. And I will be patiently looking at the cameras at both Cheltenham and Doncaster to see where Emmett is. Because if Emmett's at Cheltenham, then he fancies Noble Yates. If he's at Doncaster, then all in again on Sweet Will.
Yeah, to see where Emmett Mullins ends up. Okay, Noble Yates 9-2 in here, and Strong Leader is still the best looking horse in training. If you get to see him in person, 10-1 in this spot. Right, that's everything from the scheduled races. So Dave, I'll go back to you for anything from anywhere else.
Again, I'll try and be as quick as I can. Normally, I run through loads of Cheltenham type horses, but I'm going to keep this concise, right? Cheltenham, actually itself at Trials Day, is bookended. It has got the Triumph trial at the beginning, where we're going to see Sergino versus Burdett Road. Sergino got some form, Frank, in today. A horse has gone and bolted up that was well beaten behind him. And Burdett Road obviously looked like an absolute weapon. Like, that's going to be a proper race to look at. Potentially with either of those, if you fancy him, you've got to bet them for Cheltenham if you're going to be better for this race, because one of them's going to be favourite for the Triumph after this. And I do possibly think whichever one wins this will win the Triumph in March. The last race as well is the Classic Novices Hurdle. This is one of my favourite British hurdles ever. Every single season, it's like, I say every single season, maybe every other season, it throws some classics in there. We've had Bobsworth win this before he goes and wins an Albert Bartlett. We had at Fisher's Cross won it. The new one was second. They won the Albert Bartlett and the Ballymore that season. We've had Yanworth that was second in a Ballymore. Shantou Village probably would have won at Cheltenham if it hadn't have fallen. We had Santini and Black Hop. I know Santini flopped an Albert Bartlett, but Black Hop was well fancied and right up there. It's just a really good looking race. And now we've got Gidley Park going against Johnny Who. Gidley Park is the potential Ballymore winner. He's already shortened up. So again, if you fancy him to win this, I wouldn't worry if he gets beat, because like I say, a lot of horses have come second and winning a Ballymore. It's not produced a Ballymore winner, but they've gone all right. But Johnny Who looks like the Albert Bartlett type. So potentially he could go and win this like some other horses have done, like a Bobsworth. So I wouldn't have an opinion in betting in the race, but those two I expect to be fighting out the finish. And then at Doncaster as well, there's some good races there. I'll quickly do the Doncaster ones compared to the Cheltenham ones. There's a Fillies Juvenile listed hurdle, Woodhoo or Woodhow, however we say it, for Gordon Elliott comes over. Loads of people are saying she's a Fred Winter Boodles horse, so keep an eye on what she does. And then obviously Jericho de Repene runs in the Rossington Main Novices Hurdle. Mark Walsh is over to ride that horse. Obviously lots of talk between Mystical Power about where they're going, so maybe Mark Walsh will have a bit of a view on both horses where he wants to send them. But some seriously good racing everywhere over the weekend, and that's enough for me to talk about.
So much, isn't there? Racing just coming out of our ears. Andrew, what did you like from anywhere else?
Yeah, cracking stuff. I did have a look at the 1150 at Doncaster, thinking, oh, a class 2 0 to 150 handicap chase, this must be televised. Then realised 1150, no, it probably isn't, and it isn't. But because Funambule Cibolo, we know, likes good ground, we know likes a flat left-handed track, got a great record at Newbury, and has won here at Doncaster on his sole previous start. I thought he had a great chance in that first race, but I will just throw a few quid each way at Gabriel's Getaway as well for Anthony Honeyball, and right down the bottom of the weights, who came good around this time last year and has got a good record on decent ground. And the aforementioned Jericho do High Horse. I mean, okay, yeah, one impressively so far. You know, done nothing on the clock. 2-1 on. Nicky Henderson, slight doubt the yard. I'll probably lay it for a place and hope we get something funny happening. And Cheltenham, the 12:05, the Triumph hurdle trial, grade 2 contest, Burdett Road. I mean, he's been fantastic to watch so far. I'm really looking forward to seeing him and seeing what he can do. But the one I'm going to back each way, I've just seen his 20s into 14s now, which is really annoying, is Excelero for Jane Williams. Now, she's, Nick Williams, Jane Williams had a really good record when stepping one up on its second career start into graded company. I mean, this, bear in mind, first time out at Warwick, this horse was beaten into second place by Salva, going down by a couple of lengths. And Salva, of course, went on to win the finale hurdle, now a grade 2 at Chepstow next time out. I think won at Exeter and then won the finale at Chepstow. Had 22 lengths to spare over the third place horse that day. That was his debut. He was green, and they don't tilt at windmills when it comes to these sort of races. So in the Galahad Quest colours, I'd go Excelero each way in that Cheltenham Open.
Nicely done. Now, Cheltenham chat time. I know we've just had a whole load of Cheltenham chat, and of course, looking forward to the festival, though, and potential clues from this weekend and beyond. So, Andrew, did you have any sorts of further Cheltenham angles to throw forward to March?
Yeah, another good race, which isn't on TV, which is really disappointing, is the Timeform Novices Handicap Chase. Now, bear in mind, last year, Stage Star won this. That's all right. Gino was second. And back in third, albeit a well-beaten third, it was Unexpected Party, who was ridden patiently in a race where it was, big advantage to be up with the pace. He's running off a similar mark here. And so we've talked about the Grand Annual already and sort of Dan Skelton's desire perhaps to win it. And I did sort of suggest this one prior to the abandoned Clarence house last week that, Unexpected Party. I can see him running well here, sneaking into the frame as he did in the race last year behind two horses who are now rated massively higher than they were that day. And 20 to 1 seems a sort of big price here, but maybe the plan is the Grand Annual, and we'll see him sort of coasting around at the back, coming through late. Might get sort of third or fourth here, but certainly keep Unexpected Party on your radar for the Grand Annual.
Yeah, you've been flagging this one up then to us for a while there, so we'll be fascinated to see how he goes. Dave, Cheltenham chat, what are your angles?
I feel like I said enough in the video. People can go back and watch all the ones I've suggested for handicaps. I think it's very important, right? There is some seriously good racing this weekend, but the bookies are already shortening up horses left, right, and centre. Like I say, Gidley Park's gone from 14s into about 7s for a Ballymore, and potentially he's got to get beat to actually end up being a Ballymore type horse. So I would tread with caution in terms of betting prior to this. I mentioned the Triumph Trial. Like if you fancy either of those two, you should bet that for then. But just watch all the racing with your own eyes. There's so much going on. Watch it again if you get the chance. And I guarantee you there will be Cheltenham Festival handicap winners in races, but they're probably going to be in behind and down the field. And with so much action going on and such competitive racing, you would be better just to watch this weekend. Maybe have a little notebook with ones that we've suggested to keep an eye on, but then go back and watch the races again and make your own opinion. And then next week, you should better get stuck into a few, I reckon. We'll give you a couple of tips next week instead.
Yeah, don't tell people to make their own opinion. They've got to watch this.
We are their opinion.
Otherwise, we're surplus to requirements.
Exactly. We'll be kicked out of a job. We are said opinion. No, like it a lot though. Like I said, we've covered loads of horses anyway in the main body of the video, potentially for future Cheltenham angles as well as Cheltenham angles this weekend. So Dave, all that is left for me to do is to go back, get your nap first and foremost, please, of this weekend.
I've picked the hardest of all the races, but I'm so confident that Sweet Will is a plot job. Sweet Will wins, and it's the nap for the weekend.
Oh, and get on that price now of 7 to 1 about now before he is then steamed into. Andrew, your nap.
Oh no, you've done me again, haven't you? I was completely forgetting you're going to ask me. I'll go forward plan in the Great Yorkshire Chase, which used to be called back when I was a lad.
Which is what it was called previously. So we're doing a full reversal round to that. And I'll go Grandeur down then in the 115 at Cheltenham. So we've all got slightly tricky races then for our naps, but it's one of those weekends. We've got to go swinging for the hills then on this week's show. But that's everything from us on this week's show. So big thank you to Dave and to Andrew for all of their hard work. As per usual, we've covered a million races, so hopefully there's plenty enough for you to get stuck into. Big thank you to our sponsors, BetMGM. Best of luck with your bets this weekend, and we'll speak to you again next week.